Howdy. Uh, Welcome everyone on this lovely Wednesday afternoon to our April webinar in the BCTLA's Spring Webinar Series. My name is Joseph Jeffrey. I am the Pro-D coordinator for the BC Teacher Librarian Association. And I'd like to begin with acknowledging the land that I'm coming to you from and ask you to think about where you are situated. Clitli habe keo watsul delti, Netselia habe yon suwanawati, inkes suwanawalye. I respectfully acknowledge that I am coming to you today from the traditional unceded territory of the Clitli on whose land I get to live, work, and play. What I want you to think about is to take your feet and place them onto the ground and to just think about the connection you have with the land, whether it's the drive you take to work every day, the walk you take when you're home, the land around your house or your school ground when you're on supervision. But I want you to think about how lucky we are in British Columbia and everywhere in Canada to be able to be on this land and to share it with the wildlife and nature and to be able to steward it and take care of it to make sure it is good for the future. So just take a second to think about that. And then I'm going to introduce our lovely speaker today. So today our webinar is coming to you from the Maple Ridge School District, where the talented Ms. Chudy is going to be doing some book repair. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Dev. The meeting is being recorded for those who want to see it later, but it won't be available widely or for very long. So here we go, over to Dev.
Hi, gang. Thank you so much for coming today. I am Devika Chudy. I work here at Golden Years Elementary in the Maple Ridge Pitt Meadows School District. I am using our special conference camera today because I don't normally have so much stuff for a webinar. So I'm hoping that you guys will be able to see everything. So if not, if you're having any issues with visuals, just pop a comment in the chat. Joseph will be monitoring. Same thing with any questions that you might have. And hopefully we'll be able to answer the questions about what you need for book repair. He was very generous in titling the webinar, The Talented Miss Chudy, but I will say that I am very much a self-taught repair person. I've looked at YouTube videos. I'm sure you guys have done it as well. And I've just experimented with a lot of random things. So Joseph has just popped into the chat, and I hope that you all access it. I made this slideshow presentation that I'm about to show you available to all of you. It has links to everything that I'm talking about. You have 1 year to be able to access this webinar presentation. So please click on that link. Make sure that you have it downloaded somewhere or saved somewhere so that you can access this presentation later with the specific links to the different companies and sites that you can buy the various products from. Okay, shall we get started? By the way, that is my email address down there if you'd like to send me an email as well, if you have something specifically that you'd like to talk to. We're going to start with equipment and tools. So if you have this presentation, there are three main companies that I work with. BroDart is a library-specific service. They are a Canadian company. A lot of the products, though, are bought in the States, and recently the tariffs were influencing purchases, so do be aware of that. Things that I like to purchase specifically from BroDart, I have different tape dispensers. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably have something along these lines. I personally like to use these brands of tape. I get the really thick 30-yard rolls. If you're not aware, the library tape is acid-free, which protects the books from getting damaged and over time with age. So I use that for a lot of my short, quick repairs. And then we have a couple of different staplers that I like to use for a variety of repairs as well. So I have the Swingline Light Touch, which is the heavy duty stapler. And I use that for thinner books when I don't have time to do a proper gluing of the spine. So it's really good for those scholastic chapter books that are quite thin, and you can bang the repair out real quick and then send the kids on their way without having to put it in the box of repair that is going to be probably 3 months in the future that you're going to get around to doing it. The other one I have is the Stanley Bosch Stitch Long Reach Stapler, and I use that for my magazine repairs and for like thinner picture books. And I will show you guys how to use these items later. I just wanted to get through what the various things. I do have a variety of elastics that I can use, but in particular, these ones are bundle bands and they have adjustable clamps, and they're used to hold books in particular for book repair. I also have a nice scapula because scalpels are really important for the book repair where the covers are partially torn off and you're going to need to probably cut the rest of it off. So I use it for that, and obviously label removal. And then I have a little micro spatula that I use to like help me tuck things in and get the glue out of things. And it's got all kinds of great little things you can use it for. I have bind art flexible adhesive glue. I do have a great toy for fixing spines, which I'll show you, but unfortunately it has a limitation as to the size of books that it can take. So that's when I have to use the bind art glue instead. And then of course we need the heavy duty staples for the other stapler. And then I use Dissolve It, which is a really fantastic label remover for getting all the gummy stuff off of books. When your students bring books back with various food stains and whatever on it, this will get it off, as well as all the labels that we get from the various companies. Carmaclean is another Canadian library company that I use on occasion, not as much as Brodart, but they do have this wonderful tape dispenser that I learned about way too late in my career. It is fantastic for specifically taping the spines of books. And it makes it so easy. And again, I'll demonstrate this for you. I use it for my magazine repairs as well. So it's a really great device. So it's the C27 taping system. You might be able to get it from other places as well, but this is a Demco company that creates this one, and I really like the way that it works. The last place that I tend to buy stuff is Amazon. I tried to give it to the library companies first. That said, I want to introduce you to thermal binding machines. So there are companies that sell these that are quite expensive. I looked at them, I watched videos online, and I did find a quality device off of Amazon for a fraction of the price. So at the time, it was only $80, which is quite a bit cheaper than the hundreds of dollars that the other machines are. When you get the thermal machine, you also need to get glue strips. And so I get those from Amazon as well. And so there are 1-inch glue strips, and there are 12 millimeter glue sticks, which are thinner ones for your smaller books. These guys here. Ready to say thank you yet. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen there. I'm going to start with my tape dispenser here, the Demco C27. So I'm sure that you guys often, if you still do magazines or if you have thin picture books, they often get damaged or ripped. So in this case, make sure that you guys can see this. And I can see myself. Okay. So as you can see, I have a magazine here. The staples have let go. Before I do the staple repair, I like to do the taping on this. So with the Demco tape dispenser here, it's got a spring load right here. And so it moves for a variety of depths for the books or magazines that you're going to go in here. And there's arrows here to indicate how deep you want to go when you're doing spine label taping. For this one, because of the magazine, I just open it to the middle. make sure it's on there. There are little metal arms here that you can pull out for wider books to help hold them up so that they don't flop around. I don't need to put the whole magazine here. Obviously, I can even just do the cover, which might make it a little bit easier. And then you can pull the tape the exact length that you need, and you can walk it back or forth to what you want the length to be. And so I'm just going to move this a little bit more to the middle for me. And then you can put it down. I smooth it, and then there's a little slider here. And just like that, you've got perfectly measured tape with minimal effort, which I was like, why? Why did I not learn this while I was doing all the careful book tape in years past? Now, after I've done the taping, it's where I use my long arm stapler. And so then I like to do it from the inside because the staples on the outside are already holding usually most of the magazine. And so if I go from the inside, it's gonna kind of secure it on there. So I usually do 2 staples on the inside seam right on the middle. Just make sure that it's folded. And then we can get, hopefully, a few more uses out of the magazine before it gets used again. For this book here, it's a Scholastic purchase. As we all know, they're not always made the most sturdily. So same thing, I'm going to go inside the book. This one I'm going to actually staple 3 times. So I'm going to do 1 in the center and then 2 on the outer edges. And then it's good to go for a while yet.
Dev, for stapling, can you just show us with the staple tilted up a bit how you do the staple again? Because it wasn't really clear on that one.
See it in the big one? So sorry, you want me to staple?
Just demo stapling it with the staple tilted towards the camera.
Can you guys see that?
Exactly like that. Yep.
So yeah, so the book's on the book's open, and then I can't physically.
Yeah, no, you don't have to do that part.
So it looks like that, and then like that. And so there's a slider here that like can actually make it, you have different levels for where you want the book to be. If you're wanting to exactly get the right measurement for that center piece, but I usually just eye it. I just have it back at the end. That's up for you. Decide how you want to repair your things. Okay, so those are some pretty easy repairs. We have this book here where I'm sure we've purchased paperbacks and our friends have lost the corner. So I like to take tag board for that piece, and I will hold it up to the book, and I will do basically like a quick measurement of where the tear is. And then I'll just cut out a rectangle from that piece. So looking at where this tear is, I usually go a little bit past where the tear actually is, just to make sure that I have enough. So as you can see, I've marked it there and there. And so then I'll cut it out. And then using my friendly Demco tape dispenser again, I'm able to reinforce those corners with the tape and the tag board. And so this way it's not, the book's not continuing to be damaged when the kids are taking it on and off the shelves. And so depending on how big the tear is, I might do a couple of pieces like I'm going to do this one.
Once you've done it flat, are you able to tilt it towards us again? Because the main owl camera seems to have panned to your face instead of where you're actually working.
So the tall one you guys can't see. Sorry, like it's up there. Okay, so you can see there, I've cut a piece off. I often like to wrap it around as well to make sure that it's being held on the inside. And so that way the corner is protected for a little longer and I can use this book for a while. That makes sense to everybody? And then if you want to, you can do another piece on the inside to make sure it's fully taped there as well. Look how smooth that taping is. No bubbles. Ooh, that is the pleasure of my life. It's the small things as a librarian, but having zero bubbles in my tape, I am all about that. Now, with regards to the thin books that I was talking about, so here my tape has completely let go of the label. It's not seeming holding onto the book at all. I will retape this with the same Demco tape dispenser, but I'm also going to use that heavy duty stapler, which I will show you guys how to use in just a minute here. So again, I've lined it up with a black line on in the center here. Can you guys see that? Here, I drop that down. There's that black line that I'm talking about. The length of the book. Slide the slider. There we go. So I'm going to use the heavy duty stapler. Here. So this one also has a guide protector for how deep you want to go with your stapling. I usually just push it again all the way to the back because I never know how big the books are going to be. I will mention this device, if you purchase one for the library, do not let other people use it. I will staple for other people if it's a small amount of stapling, like a quick repair. I have lent this out to other people. They didn't really use it properly. And when it came back, it didn't continue to staple to the same quality it had done in the past. So I made the office buy office ones, and I have my library one that I protect very carefully. And so the heavy duty staples, so if you push a button here, you can see that they come out here and they're quite long reaching. They will actually wrap around on the back side, but depending on how thick the book is, if the staples don't go through cleanly, they can get kind of folded and stick out in weird ways. I do actually keep pliers as one of my repair tools at all times, because sometimes you have to pull the staples out because they didn't go in quite properly, or you might need to rebend them a different way. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. So I usually start in the center. Now, because the staples can have an issue with jamming, I will actually open it up and I will tap the staples closer to the front to make sure that it's got a nice tight seal to the front of it, so that when the spring is pushing against the staples, it will actually hopefully go in smoothly without any jamming. I'm gonna have to put this down actually because I cannot do it on the box. This is gonna take a little weight and a little muscle because it is a heavy duty stapler. And so when you're looking on the books, they often have those kind of lines for where the gluing kind of happened. I use that as a guide. If you staple along that line, then you're not really gonna have words kind of hiding inside from the staple going in too deep. So there's a little muscle, so you can see right there, the staple is flat, and here you can see the staple has wrapped around. Oh, come on. The staple is wrapped around nice and clean. Now, some people may actually choose to put the tape on after the fact. That will actually do an extra level of protection for you so that you don't have to worry about if the staples come out for whatever reason and it might poke the kids, the tape kind of holds it in. So I do 3 of those. These books will last a surprisingly long time. In fact, with certain Scholastic books, I will even preemptively do this to make sure that they last a lot longer. So like those branches and acorn and all the Captain Underpants and those kinds of things. So I do these preemptive staples that it really lasts much better. Okay. So you guys probably want to learn about the thermal machine, which is my latest toy. I just got it, and it has honestly been a dream. I watched the videos on how to use it, and it's surprisingly simple. I'm going to show you here. So this is the thermal machine, and so I purchased one that allows you to use it for, it's really simple, like button setup here. It literally tells you when it's warm and when it's running. So if I push this little switch here, the little lights come on, and you can see now it's starting to warm. And so over here, it'll say how many minutes do you want it to run, and you literally just press the select button. Now it's not going to let me choose right now because it's still warming up. So you can see in here, this slot is for letting books cool. So once you've done the re-gluing, you can put it in there to set for a bit. And then this bar here is where it actually opens up for where you're going to put the books. Now, I can show you guys the inside is the heating panel. It's this black strip down here. I'll show you guys the glue strips again. So this is the 1-inch glue strip, and this is the 12mm glue strip. And you need to cut these to the sizing of your book and put it along the spine. So I've got some samples here for you guys. So, for example, I'm sure you all have the Raina Telgemeier series. This one I actually put glue strips in earlier. So here, the cover hasn't completely ripped off yet. It's just let go inside the spine there. Sometimes though, you can see like it's about to start to let go here. The threading is letting go. So you do have the option of using your scalpel and cutting those threads to get access if you don't have another way of getting in. But I do it so that if it's already kind of got a little pouch there, then I just kind of slide it in. You want your glue strips to be about 1 inch short on either side because you don't want the glue to get inside your device, because then it will transfer obviously to other books. When the glue melts, you need to be careful to make sure that if it's in there, you remove it very quickly. When I was watching the other videos, they weren't really clear about how to clean it. And the way that they kind of suggested to do it was a bit tedious. I turn the machine off, I let it cool off, and then I try and scrape it off, and I kind of like scratched the inside a little bit, and I was like, oh, I don't like this. And then I had the thought of, what if I just put a tissue inside while it was still wet and just use my micro spatula, I gained another job for it, and just booped it off. And you know what? It was super effective and worked really well. Sorry, tagboard, yes, is the same as cardstock. Okay, so it's now chirping at me, and it says run. So I'm able to put it in here. As you can see, it has the light there. It says 1. If I push the button again, that's 2 minutes. And if I push it a third time, both the lights are on, which means it's actually 3-minute timing. I like to do 3 minutes and give it time to melt properly. So I just make sure that everything is lined up nice and tight. And then I'm going to slide the drawer and drop it in. And it senses when it's physically touching in there. I let the slide go and it will now run for 3 minutes. So I can do other things while I'm waiting for this to do its heating. Now, the videos that I saw said that you can run it a second time, and I personally find it better to do it 2 times in a row because the glue really melts properly then and will bind to the pages. So I'm going to leave this be, and at this point, I'm going to see if there's any questions or any comments that people have that they might want to ask me. So what have you got here, Joseph? Is there much that I missed? Okay, fix the camera. Yeah, so I would say roughly 1 inch off of either end. As long as you've got the majority of the spine covered with the adhesive strip, it's going to really hold the pages really solidly. And I've tried this already with books like Guinness Book of World Records, which we all know fall apart very easily, and some of the Raina Telgemeyer's, and it's worked really well. Amanda says, try parchment paper. Is that for cleaning, Amanda? So we have a company in Kelowna that will rebind paperbacks to be hardcovers. Expensive. Any suggestions for making paperback that are even putting them out on the shelf? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So if you put the books in parchment paper, I see what you're saying. So that I've never tried that. I'm not sure how it would affect the quality of the heating, but for sure, I think that would make sense because it's definitely meant for going into hot ovens and stuff like that. Realistically, the glue doesn't come out that often. When I do this, it's like 1 out of 5 books or 6 books, and it's usually just a small amount of glue. So just taking a tissue and cleaning it up is actually pretty quick. And I just use the same tissue over and over. But for sure, give a parchment a try if you'd prefer to do that. I just want to make sure that the glue doesn't accidentally go back onto the book in other capacities. That would be all I'd be worried about. So the brand of machine is in the slideshow presentation I sent. So that's the beeper. So it's told me the first one is done. So to reset it, I have to physically lift the book out because it does have a sensor. And if you look, you can see that there's like little stringies kind of at the end there. So that's that glue melting. If I look inside, yeah, there's a little bit of glue that's come off. So this is where I'm going to, so not, can you tell I'm not a person who does selfies? I'm like complete opposite of whatever the camera's telling me to do. And so I just go in here and I do that. And then it's all clean. And so that was easy peasy instead of the nightmare that I used to try and scrape it off while it was all hard. There's a little bit over here too. Okay, so then once that's cleaned off, I pop it back in and it will do a second run of 3 minutes. So I'm just gonna throw in the slideshow link here again, guys. So if you can click onto that, then you should be hopefully able to access all the links for the information on the equipment that I've talked about today. The pricing for these is way less expensive than I'm sure it is to pay a company to replace the entire covers, the hardcovers that I know a lot of people tend to do with Guinness Books of World Records and that. This has been such a quick and easy solution. They did mention in the previous videos that I saw that books like Harry Potter are maybe a little problematic because they are so thick. They may not necessarily fit in here. So as you can see, this one has completely come off of its cover. When you are doing this, I like to have plastic laminate on my covers. You can technically put them in here, but personally, I prefer to remove them just to be safe. So that we're good to go with the gluing. It happens to be that this version of Harry Potter, the Deathly Hallows, does fit in my machine. So I'm very excited about that because I thought it wouldn't. So here we got the whole cover. So if I get a strip, full one, just in case. I would put it on the cover and I would give myself an inch from the top. And then I would measure to roughly where an inch is here. And then I would cut the strip so that I can use it. I do save the odds and ends because not all books need the full strip. If it's a slightly thinner paperback book, you can get away with having a smaller section. Even if it's like 2 inches away from each end, it still actually holds really, really well because the glue just kind of melts and moves on to either side, regardless of the larger kind of space that's in there. Now, if this wasn't a book that fit into this machine, that's when I have to use the more traditional book repair skills. So that's where I'm talking about this vinyl bind adhesive. Okay, so it's very liquidy, be warned. If you don't have a glue top on the top, it will sploosh all over the place. So I tend to use a popsicle stick. Oh, there we go. So this is being in now for 2 rounds. So now I'm gonna put it in the shelf to let it cool down. And I'll show you guys what it looks like once it's cooled. I'm just gonna turn this off. So going back to this, we have our cover. And if this was only partially off, again, I would use my scalpel to cut away at any kind of threads. If the paper is coming off like this piece, you can rip it off or tear it off. Some people, again, will use the cardstock or tag board to create another piece to go inside. Now, because this does fit in my binding machine, I'm not going to actually properly do it because I want to do it with the better adhesive. But what I would do is I would take that tag board, I would take this glue and use a popsicle stick and put it on there. And then I would put another layer on here. And then make sure that your cover and the words are in the correct direction because I have seen covers put the wrong way. And if you're anything like me, that's something worth checking. And you make sure that, remember, the covers are often a little bit bigger on either end. So it shouldn't be exactly lined up to the bottom. You want to make sure it's kind of square in the middle. And so then I would push it in with the glue, make sure that it's set, and then that's what these elastics are for. So then you put these elastics on the book to help it hold while it's drying. And then of course mine breaks because I'm doing a demonstration. And of course that's when all the tools break, right? So we're gonna just pretend like this is full. Oh no, it keeps breaking. Goes on the top, one goes across the bottom, and then it will hold it together. And you need to give yourself like a good 24 hours at least to let it set. Sometimes I do a little bit longer. If you really want to make sure that it's like pressed really properly, I often put other books on top of it to give it extra weight to make sure that it's really sticking in there. Okay, let's see. So Karen says, we have a thermal bind machine we share district wide. We use Goo Gone to remove excess glue off of the heat plate. It works great. Machine has to be off and cool. It doesn't leave a residue at all for future book repairs. Thanks, Karen. Shelly says, I've been using butterfly clips to hold them together overnight. Well, the glue dries for sure. So if you have like do you mean butterfly clips or do you mean the bulldogs? I have some of these as well. Depending on how big the book is, obviously, some of them are quite large, so you might necessarily be able to do that, but for sure, that is a good little hack. So let's see, this is still warm. I don't know if I can show you guys. Can you guys see how tight the glue is to the cover? So it works really, really well. Like, in fact, it's probably glued better with this additional glue that I have than the original binding ever was. From the reuse of the books, once I put them back out on the shelves, they seem to be holding up really nicely. So I think it's worth the investment. I think that's it, unless there's something in particular that people needed help with or had any questions.
So at this point, if you've got any questions, feel free to raise your hand or unmute yourself. I have turned back on the ability to unmute yourself.
Thanks, Joseph. So Catherine asks, what do you do when individual pages fall out? So depending on the book, if it's a big fat book like this, that's problematic. The thinner ones, that's when I would just like I often will take books out of their bindings to get them to be able to repair them either with the stapler or the binding thermal machine. So I know it's not ideal that sometimes you need to destroy a book to fix the book, but that is the case sometimes. Someone says, how would you fix a book that splits the pages in half? Splits the pages in half. Sorry, I don't know. Sorry, can I?
Sometimes when a book breaks, it doesn't break cleanly. Yes, like that.
So this one here is similar to the other books that I was talking about. For this, this is why my colleague is here. She has a whole French set of dictionaries that are all breaking. So she's like, I want to learn how to fix this. You can see the spine is just so thin. Like, I don't know why they would think that this would hold this many pages. It was probably a cash grab, but let's be frank. So again, I would use the cardstock or the tag board here to make it thicker. If the thermal machine can fit it, which we've discovered this does, then I would use the glue strips to fix that as well. But again, you may need to use a scalpel to cut away your pages so that you can get your cover to where it needs to be. Sometimes you might even have to create your own cover out of tag board, depending on like if it's a library book or something you're just reusing for the class. But if you remake a whole cover, and you can maybe glue the original cover onto that and then glue that on with binding glue or with the thermal machine is how I'd go ahead with that. Do you tape the split seam? So I will mention that depending on the books, I will tape the inside cover sometimes as additional reinforcement. So I wouldn't tape the split in the center, but I would tape to anchor on the front and back page. And again, that Demco C27 is great for fixing the taping on the inside of the covers. How long do I take to fix a book instead of just discarding it? Like, how far gone does it have to be? Well, it depends on how much money your district actually allows you to have for purchasing new books. My rule of thumb is if it feels like it's going to be a health hazard, for example, if there's like moldy food issues in it, if the pages are glued together because of water damage or liquid damage, if you've sometimes I look at the stats, quite frankly, and I'm like, did I get 100 uses out of this Captain Hunter underpants? Might be time to buy a new copy just because uh well, it's had its use. It's definitely gotten its $15 worth of use if I've had 100 kids read it. But realistically, it's going to be up to you and your library to determine where you're going to need to be able to find that line of discarded versus repair. There are certain items that I definitely will look at and go, well, this is so dated. Do I really need to repair this? This probably is the end of its life, and let's just put it in the garbage now or the recycling. Any other questions?
Okay, I'm not seeing any suggestions to give old books a new life.
Oh, well, that would be Jessica Bonin's skill set right there. She has wonderful projects that she does where she makes old books into new art. And I definitely watch those videos on YouTube as well. That is not my skill set. But if any of you guys have something that you would like to recommend, I would for sure appreciate hearing from you.
I feel that that was a pitch, Jessica, for you to either apply to do a thing at the BCTLA Fall Conference or to do a webinar in the future.
Jessica says she makes them into bookmarks, cuts them up and makes them into bookmarks. I think that's fantastic. Claire asks, if you don't have any of these tools, what would you recommend to get started with? Honestly, probably the tape dispenser because it's the most practical you're going to use the most. I do use my heavy duty stapler a lot, but that's up to you individually. If you decide to get the binding machine instead, the stapler becomes less of a need. Yeah, I really like the dissolve um, product for removing all kinds of gunk from books, but again, there are other options like Goo Gone. I do think that it's worthwhile to invest in a good scalpel as well. X-Acto blades are all well and good, but this is like a proper sharp edge with a point that makes is meant for fine, detailed, careful work. See what else we have. So Joanne, I said when individuals pages fall out, I sometimes have to actually cut the cover to be able to rebind the whole thing. Okay. Is that it, Joseph? Did I get all the questions? Oh, hold on. Do I wash my books? I actually do. I have, that's a unspoken tool. Lysol wipes. I keep these beside my desk. And when I get those lovely, tacky, sticky books that the kids are like, what happened? I'm like, this is the answer. That's as
Uh,
close as I
if
can
you
watch.
don't have any of these tools, what would you recommend to start?
So that's where I said the Demco C27. This guy here. This one. If you can get a thermal binder, great. If not, then I would say this is the other major tool that you would use. Where did dissolve the final thing? This one? I mean, this one doesn't hold as well. So it will work for keeping the life of your really large books for a while longer. But realistically, it's the thermal machine that's going to get you the most life out of your books.
Library.hes ask, does anyone pay for processing when they order books? For example, dust jackets, tape already done. I can say for our school district 57 Prince George, we do not. We don't find that that's a good use of our funds. We can do it just as well as they can for cheaper.
Yes. So I think it really depends on your district and your schools. Maple Ridge, every teacher librarian here does all their own processing and cataloging. So that's why I put tape on my books to make them last longer. So if you can see, I've taped it up the size of this, and that's again where I use the Demco for that to make it last longer in my processing. Do I have a good cheap source for the tape machine tape? So here's the thing: when I looked at Brodart for the tapes, back in my display, I had two brands of tape there. There was the Brodart tape, and then there's Crystal Clear. Crystal Clear is actually quite a bit cheaper than the Brodart. That said, it is technically thinner than the Brodart, even though it says it's the same thickness. So I have noticed that depending on, most of my rolls have been fine, but I did have one roll where the tape was tearing because it was a little bit thinner than the Brodart. But it is less expensive, and at 30 yards of clear, I usually get the 3-inch tape. So it fits my wider books. It's fantastic. And if you buy 6 or more rolls from Brodart, they start to discount the tape rolls as well. I believe, yeah, I think the more you buy, the cheaper it gets. Thanks, Jess. I think got my hair done just for this. Do I tape the edges too? Do you mean wrapping around the book? I don't usually do that piece. That said, if the book is starting to fall apart like this one has, I have gone back and taped the edges where the kids are being a bit more destructive. So as you can see, I'm gonna have to do some taping up here at the top because it's got started to tear and it started to split here. So that's when I usually, again, use that the Demco 27, and I just take a little chunk and I fold it over to make sure that it's protected.
Laminating book covers can also be really useful in keeping your hardcover books in good condition ahead of any issues and works just as well as a dust jacket.
Yes, so that's what I do with my picture books. We have a laminator at my school, so I do all my processing on the cover and then run the whole thing through the laminator, and that will make it last longer as well. And then Catherine Monks has book tape, though it's thinner than the Brodart. It is less expensive and locally owned. Thanks, Catherine. Heather says she gets Scotch through Scholastic. Yes, I know Carl McLean sells Scotch as well. I believe, I'm not sure. Brodart used to sell Scotch. I'm not sure if it does anymore. But I found Scotch and the Brodart tape to be kind of comparable. The Crystal Clear is quite a bit cheaper than both those brands. Oh, Mark has just displayed some beautiful art here. If you guys did not have a chance to check out his heart sculpture, that is absolutely phenomenal. Wow, Mark, very impressive. I think Mark needs to do a workshop now. Kim says, I can also recommend the Scotch brand book tape that you can get from Scholastic with your book fair dollars. Awesome. And just ask, what's the most gross thing you found in or on a book? So Curly knows because she heard me complain about it. I recently had cat vomit on a book that then transferred onto multiple other books in the vicinity. I do not know why this child did not clean the cat vomit immediately before bringing the book to school. But I'm like, why is this sticky? And then I was like, oh, I've been touching this book so much. I'm just transferring the cat vomit stick everywhere. So I hope none of you have to deal with that, but rarely as you might have to just to touch. What was the glue you had in your hand a minute ago? That's also in the slideshow presentation. So sorry, it's a Brodart brand. It's been torn off there. It's called Vinyl Bind Adhesive. So this one is a little more for fixing covers, that level of strength. And anyone use green materials instead of laminating? That's a good question. That's not something that I've focused on because I'm going for general endurance. So the closest I get to is we're using, paper to fix covers. But does anyone else have any kind of green material suggestions? I don't think so. Maybe that's something that we can look at in a future workshop if anyone has any ideas or suggestions. definitely would like to be more green as well. Okay, if there is nothing else, then we might wrap up the session a little early, if that's all right with Joseph.
Absolutely, because I've got another Zoom meeting starting in 5 minutes.
Of course you do, you busy man. All right. Thank you everyone for coming. I hope you had something out of this that works for you. Again, feel free to email me, and I really appreciate you all coming, and hopefully you can keep
Yes, right now it's the Mac testing or something testing.
So we will, I'm not sure who's unmuted, but I will mute them. I thank you very much, Dev, for all your work on this. The video will be sent to you as a link in your email. You can share it with colleagues, but please don't put it onto social media or anything like that. Have fun and enjoy your Wednesday evening. Thank you.
Enjoy the sunshine if you got it, everyone.